Filling in for the very sick and weak and feverish and probably vomiting and barely able to walk, Stu Bregeer is Pat Gray. Hello, Stu. Or Pat.
Whoever I am.
Hello,
Glenn.
How are you?
Good. Perfect.
You had a great show today. Listen to you this
Oh,
morning.
thank you.
All right, let me start with X here. So yesterday there was a major, massive cyber attack on X. Shut things down for quite a bit. Musk came out and said it has all been traced to the Ukrainian area. Okay, now this is very complex and really important that we figure this out. These are spoofed IP addresses, and they all point into Ukraine. Now, I guess Musk is saying, he's part of the Trump administration, and there's an opposition to U.S. aid for Ukraine, and their fight against Russia. But that doesn't make sense. I mean, Zelensky was really stupid when he was in the White House, but I don't think he's this stupid. Okay, Alexei Svet, who is an expert on this, he says, I mean, Ukraine is trying to get us to not pull our CIA and our intelligence off of the field. That would be just stupid. Larry Kudlow was on with Musk yesterday, and he suggested that Russia might be framing Ukraine. So here's what happened. The attack hit. Thousands of users were cut off from X. Now, after that happened, a third group came in, the pro-Hamas group, Dark Storm. They claimed to be the attackers and giving the, DDoS attack on X. They have targeted the UAE's Ministry of Defense and LAX, if you remember that, when that system went down recently. So they have some cyber muscles. Now, Musk said it was a resource-heavy hit from, and I'm quoting him, from a large coordinated group and or country. So how is this happening, and what does it mean? Well, X is obviously a huge hub for raw, unfiltered voices. You disrupt it, you choke free speech, the only real free speech, I think, in the world. I don't believe that it's Ukraine. For pro-Hamas, I guess it could be perceived as a strike against, Musk's alignment with Trump or Israel. But it's really more destabilizing. You destabilize X and you start to sow the seeds of chaos, distrust. It weakens the platform that is really shaping and responsible for global change and discourse. So who did it? Ukraine has motive, but little logic on this. Why drive the U.S. even further away? It doesn't make sense to me. If you want to bet on the Ukraine thing, I would put my money on Russia. I mean, they have built these, these cyber hack shops in the basements of all these Russian, 20-somethings. Mom, I need another. Mother, I need another sandwich. Kind of there in their basement, in their underpants. And it fits with the way they handle things, pinning the blame on Ukraine to try to get us to break away from Ukraine. I mean, this is how stupid everybody is. They're like, Donald Trump, see, I told you he was in bed with Russia. No, this is negotiation, okay? The pro-Hamas group has the claim, the history, but this is a scale that really appears at this point to only be able to be pulled off if you have state backing. Now, let me throw something else in that is possible. A rival tech titan or a wild card nation. What happens with a DDoS attack is it floods servers with traffic. And usually that's with botnets. And they hijack a site with these botnets, and they are, it's just wave after wave after wave. This is all done electronically. Thousands of bots. To get that done, you need a pretty sophisticated command system, know-how, how to dodge the defenses of X, which I would imagine are pretty robust at this point. That's not cheap. That's not easy. It's not, oh, look what I've done. I've hacked X. That's not what's happening here. This screams big money and big coordination. Think state actors or elite hacktivists with deep, deep pockets from maybe a state actor. So there's a possibility that maybe these aren't separate attacks. Imagine a puppet master, like a tech rival, eyeing, digital dominance. They want to shake X from the game. They orchestrate using Ukraine and pro-Hamas. Those are just pawns in this. Or consider this. X's outages could be a test run for bigger targets. Elections, markets, infrastructure. Maybe it's China. I don't know. And that's the scary part. Cyber warfare is evolving. And right now, X is the lab rat. And I don't think we have an idea at all at this point on who it is. The evidence, however, leads to state involvement. That's not good. Because we right now have all of Europe saying that we no longer have their values. And they hate Musk. And we've seen how they've been using Brazil to go after Musk. It could be Europe, our supposed ally. The pro-Hamas hit, this group does not have this kind of power, I think. It doesn't have this kind of power. Here's the thing you need to take away from this. Digital is now, it's no longer a vein. It's an artery. You cut our arteries, we bleed to death quickly. These attacks that are going after our arteries of communication, of business, of any kind of transactions, anything that threatens business, our freedom of expression, that's a new battlefield. Remember, it was Russia and Putin that said the next war, World War III, will not be fought with missiles. It will be fought with ones and zeros. Before we all start pointing fingers, maybe we should start asking questions. Are we doing anything to defend our systems here? Because we need to stay sharp. This is, in my opinion, this is short of, but we're approaching a digital 9/11. This is maybe the first World Trade Center attack where it didn't really hit anything. It did damage, but it didn't take the building down. That's what this is. This is, what was that? Was that the 95, 96 World Trade Center attack?
Yeah,
something like that.
Three.
Okay, yeah, maybe 93. Yeah. It's not going to take that long to get it right this time. This is a wake-up call to everybody in the Western world, but especially here in America. We need to know who this was. All right. Now, while we're talking about enemies of the state, let's talk about the enemies within. There's this big debate over the green card thing. I got a green card, so I can disrupt. No. This is about Mahmoud Khalili. He's a green card holder that is now facing being deported because he is a guy sowing the seeds of dissent, of violence. He is the guy who was responsible for much of the bad stuff that was happening at Columbia University. And now, Trump, he's going in with immigration and ICE, and he just hates everybody that's different. No, that's not what's happening here. This guy is not a citizen. Not a citizen. He was leading the protest, really violent, awful, ugly, anti-Semitic protest at Columbia University. Not just anti-Semitic, but leaning towards the whole Islam is great, we should have Sharia law kind of ideas. This cannot be tolerated here in America. He holds a green card. What is that? That is a ticket, a golden ticket to live and work in America. But just like Willy Wonka, you can be ejected from the tour of the chocolate factory at any time. There's some fine print there that you might want to take half glasses and read half the contract like they did in Willy. It's not a passport. It's not citizenship. So let's look at this. You're handed a guest pass to the greatest estate on earth. Okay? The greatest estate ever built. Marble floors, golden chandeliers. It's the greatest. Nobody thought it could ever be this great, but it is. The view that stretches on forever and ever. And you've been invited to come and sit at the table. Have some wine, build a life. But you don't own the deed. The owners are being very, very generous. And they said, stay as long as you want. Now, honor the house. You got to live by our rules. Honor the house. So you've been invited to sit at this table, eat your fill, live like you're somebody that is part of the family, but then you start smashing the windows. You start, whispering to other members in the house about, this place is bad. This place has got to go. We should torch the place. How long before that key is snatched from your hand by the owner? And who in their right mind would say, you can't take the key from him? No one. If you're a family member, if you care about the house, no one would say, Dad, you're being a little unreasonable. He was only trying to torch the kitchen and the guest wing. No, he's a guest. And that's where we are with this guy and so many others. Every green card holder that mistakes privilege for a birthright, you're in for a surprise. There's a new sheriff in town. He's great. We love him. It's a revocable lease. That's what that is. It's not a title. You're not Lord of the Manor. He's got a revocable lease with you. And here we are today. We're all like, I don't know this. I mean, he should be able to sow chaos and terror and spread all the anti-American seeds he wants. No, he cannot. Here's why. A green card will make you a permanent resident. Legal. But not a citizen. You don't vote. You don't sit on juries. By the way, those two things are responsibilities, not rights. So you have no responsibilities as a citizen, which means you have no rights as a citizen. And if you step out of line, you get sent back. The Constitution wraps its arms around citizens, freedom of speech, assembly, all of that. Non-citizens? No. There's an embrace there, but it's very, very, very loose. Supreme Court made a rule back in 1893, when I was just a kid, with Fong Yu Ting. Oh, wait until you hear the story of Fong Yu Ting. Very exciting case. I'll start there in 60 seconds. First, here's a simple truth that people used to know. When something like the power grid fails, and it will fail. It will fail. You just sit around waiting for somebody else to get the lights back on. Or you take care of it yourself. How do you do that? Well, you were prepared for this months or even years before it happened in most cases because you went to My Patriot Supply. They have you covered right now. They've just released their new Grid Doctor 3300. It's the first solar generator with revolutionary EMP intercept technology. It protects your power from an EMP attack, keeping you and your family safe and comfortable. It has an industry-leading 3,300 watts of power. It'll run everything from refrigerators to freezers to medical devices and power tools. Plus, when you get it, it comes with a free 200-watt waterproof solar panel. Don't wait. Get your Grid Doctor 3300 with EMP intercept technology right now at mypatriotsupply.com. Secure your family's future at mypatriotsupply.com. 10 seconds, station ID. Well, back in my day in 1893, there was this young whippersnapper called Fong Yu Ting. And his case was taken to the Supreme Court. I won't bore you with all the details because I was too bored to really read them. But I do know that the outcome is Congress can deport non-citizens at will. There is no right to stay here. Doesn't exist. You break the law, you threaten the nation, bye-bye. That's not cruelty. That's the rule book. So this guy, kicking him out, that's not cruelty. That's not a tragedy of his rights being violated. He has no rights. It's privileges revoked. Not rights, privileges. Now think about this again. You're inviting somebody in your home. You're welcome to the couch. You can have all the coffee you want. You have the peace and quiet. But if you start carving up the furniture or plotting to blow the roof off, I don't owe you a bed anymore or matches to light the fuse. Period. America is exactly the same. We have flung the doors open so wide. Millions walk through. And I'm happy about this, to chase their dreams. But that comes with this deal. Don't tear down. You don't do that. You can't take the things that are holding this whole thing together and start taking the beams down. You can't. You're not a citizen. You know, if you hate the beams, you're really rude. But you're also a massive risk. Get the hell out of here. And by the way, I think we have enough cracks in our foundations without handing out free hammers. I don't know about you, but I'm like, hey, we shouldn't give hammers to everybody that comes in here. We should take those hammers away. So, if history is a teacher, and that teacher's got some scars to show you, this isn't about free speech, because that's sacred for you and me. We're citizens. If you're born here or you swear an oath, you have skin in the fight. You can rant, you can rave, you can burn flags if you want. That's your call. Your family, you've earned the voice. Green card holders, you're our guest. You know, you want to do whatever you want, that's fine. Get the hell out. Period. We have to guard the gate. You see what's happening in Europe. It's not good. It's not good at all. We cannot go down that route. Green card holder, you're preaching terror. Bye-bye. Stirring chaos. See you later. Spitting on the values that open the frickin' door for you. Bye-bye. Want to stay? Build. Don't burn. Period. All right. Back in just a second, we're going to talk about what's really going on down in the border for Mexico. Next.
This is Glenn Beck.
Man, the world is moving so fast, and everything's at a crisis level. Just last week, China slapped a 15% tax on American pork and beef exports. Retaliation, they say, for new tariffs coming out of Washington. Meanwhile, the meat from overseas, flooding us. Beef from places like Brazil, pork from God only knows where. Raised on farms we can't check. You think we have security? We don't. Why are we gambling with our food supply? Here's the good news. Good Ranchers is fighting back with meat that's 100% American from ranches where the stars and stripes still mean something. You know what I mean? This is not just about eating well. This is about holding the line. Maha, yes, but also protecting our ranchers, our farmers. Right now, I want you to go to goodranchers.com and use the promo code Beck. You're going to get free ground beef, chicken breasts, or wild-caught salmon in every box for a year, plus $25 off when you subscribe to Good Ranchers. Do it now. It's promo code Beck. GoodRanchers.com. That's American meat delivered. GoodRanchers.com. Promo code Beck.
Glenn Beck, Stu, Steve Dace, Jason Whitlock, and me, Pat Gray. Listen to all your favorite conservative voices at blazetv.com. Promo code Glenn.
Yeah, hello, America. We're gonna get back to the border and what's happening with guns here in just a minute. I want to stop before we get there and just do a little mop up on a couple of other stories that are out there. They're in the newsletter today. You can get it by going to glennbeck.com and signing up for our newsletter. There are several stories that are out about how the EPA has just cut their budgets, and everybody's freaking out about Doge is doing all this stuff, and they have no right to do it. And USAID, Rubio cut a whole buttload of money out of that and said, we're not going to give it to you. And everybody is saying, we've got to feed the world. Okay. No, we don't have to. We should be charitable, and we already are the most charitable people. This USAID is not about charity. It's a CIA op. That's what it is, a CIA op. I'll give you the details on that, but let me just first give you just a little comparison here on what we're spending and how big this nightmare actually is. Okay. We have a budget. We spend $6.3 trillion. Nobody can even fathom that. Okay. If you look at Walmart, they pulled in $611 billion. This is the biggest store, the biggest revenue king in the world. Okay. $611 billion. How many times have you shopped at Walmart or bought anything from Walmart in the last year? Now, if you're in New York, you would look down Walmart. Never. Okay. But for the rest of people, we're at Walmart all the time. Okay. So Walmart, we are spending, our government's spending is like every store, every truck and employee combined for 10 Walmarts. That's what we spend in 1 year. Let me give it this a better way. Take all of the Fortune 500 companies. Now, at the top are things like Apple, Amazon, Google, ExxonMobil, and then 496 other massive global companies, okay? Their total revenue for a year is $18.1 trillion. That's the 500 largest corporations in the world. $18.1 trillion is their revenue. Our government is spending $6.3 trillion. That's 35% of what these companies, the 500 biggest companies in the world, think about what they're making, what they're providing, what they're doing. Imagine if we spent 35% of what they are making and building and everything. If we bought 35% of that in oil, in computers, whatever, if we got 35% and purchased it, but that's what we're spending, but we're not getting any of that stuff. 1/3 of what America's 500 biggest companies earn spent by our government. Whew. That's kind of big. So you look at the head count of the Fortune 500. Head count. How many people do the Fortune 500 companies employ? 29.7 total. Our government employs 10% of that number. What? Look at America as a company, because it is, gang. I'm sorry to say it. It has to be run like your family or a company, or we go broke. And I don't know if you know this, we've gone broke. 10% our employees versus them. Again, think about everything that those 500 companies produce. All of the cars, all of everything that they produce. We have 10% of their workforce. What do we produce? That's not including the military, by the way. 1 in 10 Fortune 500 workers could be a federal employee. Now, how fast are we growing? In 2000, the budget was $1.8 trillion. In 2023, 2 years ago, our budget was $6.3 trillion. That's an increase of spending by 250%. Have we grown? I mean, it's not a problem if you're going to make more money, to spend more money. That's fine. You'd spend more money and make more money, and you never have a problem with it. Has our government provided 250% growth? Has our Fortune 500 companies given us 250% of growth? No. So why are we spending 250% more? Some of this is inflation. But what causes inflation? The government spending money it doesn't have and printing and borrowing money. So there's no way around this. It's not the capitalist system. It's the fact that the government doesn't work within the framework of common sense or a capitalist system. I hate to say capitalist system. I just mean balance the budget. Fortune 500 companies churn out cars, phones, oils, medicine, everything that you use every day. And it's efficient because it has to, or it will go out of business. See, the market demands results. We don't, for some reason. We spend all of that money, 35% of what all 500 of these companies actually make in a year. We spend 35%, and we don't demand any results. Have things really gotten that much better? Do you believe we've gotten 250% better as a nation? Do you believe we've gotten 25%? Do you believe we're 2.5% better than we were 25 years ago? I don't. So here's how they've been spending your money, and this is why all of these cuts matter. $1.1 trillion on DEI programs. You could even say it was noble. I don't think it was. But let's say you do. Was it $1.1 trillion in value for 1 year? I don't think so. $312 million in loans. You ready for this one? To kids for COVID. I don't even know how that happens. $17 billion in EPA DEI grants. Those were canceled. Billions that could have fixed roads or, I don't know, fed our veterans, gotten some of our veterans off the streets. The VA, they announced yesterday that they have renegotiated 2% of their contracts and saved almost $1 billion with 2% of the contracts renegotiated. If 2% saves that much just for the VA, let's just start with the VA. How much savings would happen with the other 98% of the contracts? And now let's take that out of the VA. What would happen if we renegotiated, 50% of all of the government contracts and line them up with common sense? You have to fight to survive every single day, but the government doesn't have to. When you're a business, I don't care how big you are, ExxonMobil could go out of business. Somebody comes up with a better way, a better thing, they'll go out of business. And there's nothing that could stop that. Because they don't have guns that says, you will buy oil from us. They don't have that. The government has that gun. You will buy your government services from us. No matter how much we suck, no matter how much we waste, you're buying it from us. Oh, and by the way, if we want to waste money beyond people's imagination, we can, and we're going to bill your kids and your grandkids, and they'll be in debt forever. I don't think so. No, thank you. Our national debt is $34 trillion. Our deficit in 23, it's bigger now, but our deficit in the last confirmed numbers in 2023 is $1.7 trillion. That means we spend $1.7 trillion that we don't have. We have to borrow that money. That's $1.7 trillion more than we can collect from people. Our GDP is $26 trillion. Our debt to GDP is 130%. Our deficit is 6.5% of our GDP. Imagine a company that has a debt 1.3 times its revenue. It doesn't last. It goes out of business. But it goes out of business because the banks won't lend it any more money. Nobody will lend it money. Everybody in the stock market will take their money out and say, I don't believe in that one anymore. But we have the full faith and credit of the United States of America because we're big. The world can't last without us. They're about to, gang. It can tax you and print cash. So you know, that's not a fix. That's a delay of the inevitable. $34 trillion in dollar bills would circle the entire planet 130 times. The deficit of $1.7 trillion is 3 times the Walmart revenue. Every year, the family budget, $50,000 a year. If you spend $65,000 a year, you have to borrow $15,000 every year. In 10 years, you owe triple your income. And then you have to go get a loan for that, and you have to keep renewing that loan. What do you think your interest rates would be? What do you think the bank would say you are as a credit risk? What do you think your credit card interest rate would be if they would even issue you one? That's what we're facing right now. A business has to sell what people want or it goes out of business. A restaurant run by the federal government serves you cold soup littered with flies and they don't care. Because if you don't buy it, it doesn't matter to them. You have to pay for it anyway. Your great-great-grandkids are going to have to pay for it anyway. No competition, no accountability, just a blank check. The government has our credit card, and it has no limit. It swipes $6.3 trillion, pays $4.6 trillion, and then charges the rest. And no bank says stop. Interest compounds. One day, we have to pay for it. There are cracks in the dam. $1.1 trillion on DEI programs. That's 2 Fortune 500 companies' revenue gone. Did that make us safer or stronger or richer? $17 billion in EPA grants? Canceled. But why spend it in the first place? That's 28 Walmart profit margins. $312 million to kids for their companies at COVID? What? Absurd. Who approved that? I know it's pocket change, but not to you, not to me. We'll never make that kind of money to be able to give it to the government in our taxes. Every million counts when you're talking $6.3 trillion. $900 million from 2% of VA contracts? That's one agency. Multiply that across the government. Waste is not the exception, it's the rule. Cut spending, boost our revenue. Easy to say, hard to do. Cutting programs means somebody's going to hurt and they're going to lose votes. You have to, or we're all going to lose. Waste is the lowest hanging fruit. What are we doing? Why is the house on fire and we're debating paint colors? Why? We have a budget. We have to hit the budget. We have to turn around. If we don't, the fire wins. Back in a minute. You've got choices. Right now, you're holding on to that phone. You can pick any company to keep you connected. Big names, flashy ads, endless options. You could grow with the giants. You know, well, you can't really grow with them because they're charging you an arm and leg for a service that's okay. You could choose something different, something that's better, a company that doesn't promise just great calls and coverage, but actually delivers it. It stands for what you stand for. That's real growth. Their mission at Patriot Mobile is to passionately defend our God-given constitutional rights and freedoms and to glorify God always. Patriot Mobile is going to give you affordable, reliable service wrapped in the kinds of values that you feel good about, and they actually live these. I know these people really well. They support our veterans, the first responders, and our American heritage and way of life. They fight for those values every single day. They've earned my business. Maybe they can earn yours as well. Start today. PatriotMobile.com/Beck. 972-PATRIOT. Get a free month of service with the promo code Beck. Switch to Patriot Mobile today. Defend your freedom with every call and text you make. Visit PatriotMobile.com/Beck or call 972-PATRIOT.
More Glenn Beck coming up next.
By the way, anybody who is burning the Teslas all around the country, you're a terrorist. I mean, a terrorist, the definition of terrorism is getting people to change their minds about a policy because they're afraid of the consequences that you are going to impose on them. Isn't that what they're doing?
Yep.
They're saying, do not buy a Tesla. Don't buy one. Otherwise, we'll burn yours to the ground, too, and you're a target. They should be arrested. Not for vandalism, not terrorism. Terrorism. That's what's happening, and it's time we take a stand against these people and say, no, we're not playing by your rules. We're playing by the actual rules of the game. You are trying to get people to disassociate with Trump out of fear of you. That makes you a terrorist. And I hope to God we're coming for you.
Is Glenn Beck.